We love you!
Hello and welcome to Tribe Talk, the Galway Hurling podcast, with me, Patrick Earley and David Connors, where each week we'll discuss and divulge all the goings-on in Galway hurling. We'll be taking an in-depth look at the club scene and of course focusing on inter-county, in this, Shane O'Neill's first year at the helm, all of which we'll do in the company of some special guests and former Galway greats. So do come along and join us on Tribe Talk, Galway's dedicated hurling podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Tribe Talk, where we reflect on the action from last weekend in the Galway Senior Hurling Championship. I'm David Connors and I'm joined by my co-host Patrick Earley. And this week we've former Galway Portumna player Kevin Chunky Hayes on the line. Lads, thanks for joining us.
Sure, Dave. Good to
be here. Lads, how's things?
Good. And yourselves, how are you keeping?
All good. Anyway, this side here after first round of the championship hurling, I suppose everyone is delighted to get back and all over the country, I suppose, with COVID-19 and stuff. Probably a bit disappointing with some of the crowd, 200, etc. people giving out, not getting in, but the streaming all over the country seemed to be great anyway. It was quite good for the Galway games anyway. I think it was 4 games in on the couch, which is always a bonus.
yeah, absolutely. There was a few walls being exploited around Kenny Park and Loughrea by all accounts over the weekend anyhow, and I'm sure that'll continue.
Oh yeah, geez, I heard there was a couple of cherry pickers and stuff going around a couple of the grounds. All right, not too many harnesses, but anyway, that's for another day.
Yeah, great to have it back though, isn't it, lads? All the same, mighty like.
Oh, geez, absolutely, yeah. You know, we're long enough without it, like, you know, and now it's back and it's going to stay running on fortnightly for the time being, and then probably towards the knockout stages and probably be going a bit more frequent again, you know. So, God, there was an awful lot to take in over the weekend, and overall, in fairness, for a first run at the streaming, you know, you couldn't say too much bad about it. It was a brilliant service to have, and the thing is, it's only going to improve going forward too. And it's probably something that's going to stick with us beyond COVID as well, whenever that will be, you know.
Definitely, yeah, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
Kevin, what was it like for you last weekend? Very different experience for you. Never mind having to watch games from home on the couch, but to not be out there yourself.
Oh yeah, sure. Listen, I wasn't even at the game now because I just felt I had pulled away this year. I probably wasn't at home enough. I hadn't been at any of the games. You know, I just felt with the ticket allocation, I said there's plenty of young lads making debuts and stuff. And just with the low amount of tickets, I just felt there was other people that probably deserved them more than me. And I knew it was on the telly. I listened to it on the radio live. I watched it twice then after. It was weird, you know, but it was great to see the young lads coming through, you know. That's what it's all about, especially at club level, you know. When I started off, there was older lads finishing up, and I remember going, it's nearly time for some of these lads to go, you know, and you know, you had to push them out. And I just felt it's probably time now. 6 or 7 of us have left the seniors, and it's not ideal. You'd love to be out there, but then again, I was always one that I love the buzz of Kenny Park or Loughrea with the supporters, and listening to the streaming online, there wasn't an awful lot of roaring and shouting. So maybe that buzz mightn't have been the same. I don't know. Maybe it's the matches themselves. They definitely a championship pace, but minus the supporters, it probably was a little different.
Yeah, and for those debutants you talk about, like, important, I would say, and the likes yourself, you had a nice few at the weekend and have had a nice few over the last few years, but the last weekend there would have been important, if possible, for like their parents to go in, because it's a huge day to make your senior championship debut.
Absolutely. Look, it's a big day for any young fella, you know, making his first appearance for the senior club. Like I made mine back in, I think it was 2001. We played Athenry, and Jesus, you had thousands at the game down in Ballinasloe, you know, and it's great, and you know, you get a great buzz as a young fella with a big crowd, etc. So that's the one thing that's probably a bit disheartening, is the 200 people, including the officials, players, etc. I know, Patrick, you were playing over the weekend, so you couldn't maybe tell me a bit more about it. But I just feel that some of the games I was looking at, the far side of the crowd, there was nobody there, like, you know. So the people that were there seemed to be all on the one side of the field, and I was kind of going, could there not be 150 from Sarsfields one side of the field, 150 from Portumna? That would nearly cover a lot of the people that wanted to go to the game as well. So that's the only thing, you know, is lucky for some lads with that were able to stream some of the games. But there's clubs there, intermediate clubs as well, that they would have loved to go to the games and they couldn't go, you know.
Yeah, we were in Loughrea on Saturday playing against Athenry, and because you know Loughrea, you have the stand on one side, which it's like you wouldn't really think it looking out and maybe from the field, but it runs virtually the whole way down to the far end of the field, and you have a bit of a terrace at the end, you know, and then the far side you have a hill, which again even on a proper championship day, like there's just so much room on it, like, you know, you could easily have taken in the usual crowd that you'd have in Loughrea and spread them out across that ground, you know. But look, that's not something we can determine. Certainly from my perspective on the field, I don't know, I was still gasping for air every bit as much as I would be on a championship game any day over the last couple of years, you know. Certainly, as you say, as regards pace and intensity, there was nothing changed, you know. We played a few seriously intense challenge matches against a few Clare teams that we thought had gotten us in right good shape for a championship, but until you go out in that first round, you know, the step up is there all the time, you know. And it does, it takes a few minutes, you're gasping, as I say, for air for a period, and then the second win comes, and then that goes, and you're praying for the third one and hoping that one comes. But no, look, just good to get the first round done and out of the way. Looking back at yourself, Kevin, was the body still up for it, do you think? And I know you were saying priorities outside hurling probably kind of took over in some ways, but how was the body feeling this year?
Look, and listen, I struggled probably for 10 years there with a knee injury, and like some years worse than others. I was getting injections and getting all sorts of stuff, taking Difene. I've more Difene taken than bottles of water, but like it just doesn't get any easier. Like, time waits for nobody. But the truth being told, I'd say if I was probably living in Portumna, there's a good chance you'd probably stay on another year with the senior. But I'm living in Athenry, and it's just the travel. It takes up a lot of time. We have a newborn. Well, she's actually a year old now. You don't feel the time going in lockdown, etc. But you know, there are obviously priorities change when you get busier. It's stuff. And the main thing for me as well is, like, as you get older, I remember back, and the last thing I want to be doing is having arguments with management saying, you know, I should probably be still there, and just make it easy on them. There's young lads there. I think we helped them out long enough. We were still senior A. You know, we could hold our heads up and go with great times, and any help you can give, just give it, and any advice you can give it if anyone asks you, and that's just the way it goes. As I say, time waits for nobody.
Yeah, that new generation, it has to start at some point. You know, you would have been similar person on the scene around 2000 after that minor win in '99. You know, you had to be given the opportunity to make the step up. You know, and that does mean at times maybe shoving a couple of more senior players out of the way, which can be difficult done. You know, in a club game especially.
Well, when we came along, in fairness, we weren't thrown in. We worked hard. We had a good bunch of lads. We fought our way into the team, you know. But you know, the fight was probably gone out of some lads. You know, training, etc. It's grand. You're training hard, but like, it's the matches. You live for the matches, and that probably kept you going the last couple of years. Just the matches, but it's everything that's coming out. The way the club game has gone, it's gone so professional. If you're not 100% in it, you're going to be left behind, and there's no point in just hanging on in there for the sake of playing matches in Kenny Park. You got to be doing all the stuff everybody else is doing, you know, backroom teams, etc. It's gone so big. In my own view, it's probably gone a little too professional. But look at who might to say it's gone too professional. You just have to keep up with it. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to kind of reflect back and look back at maybe some of the fonder memories of all the great years you had with Portumna yet? Have you taken that chance to kind of look back on all the great days you've had?
Not really, no. I'm sure it's like you always think back at some of the great days, and they're always going to be there. But I wouldn't have been one to be looking too much back at DVDs or videos. Maybe in 20 years' time we'll have a couple of pints again. Actually, we won a minor back in '99. Damien was probably talking about it. We had a reunion there at the Christmas time for our '98-'99 minor team. Now that was great crack. Most of the guys were able to come there. That was just great to catch up. And Joe, obviously, there's a couple of people there on the team and management that are gone from us now. But it was great reflection and great to catch up with lads that are out of the country and stuff like that. And that's what club's all about, really. It's the same with the senior, but that minor meant a lot to us, and a lot of them lads went down seniors. So, no, I don't be really looking back and reflecting on great days in Crow Park. If people talk to me about it, I've no problem talking about it. But, they were brilliant, and I'm not going to deny them. Lots of lads would have loved to have them that didn't get them, but they had great days with their own clubs,
Yeah, absolutely. And you had quite the reputation throughout your career as the bit of the joker of the pack, Was that something you kind of tried to bring to the squad, or was just something that you always have in you anyhow?
Listen, my job was to get the ball, turn around and kick it into Joe and Damien. That was basically it. It wasn't that hard, really. I just happened to be big enough at the time as well, so I was able to kind of win my own ball. So get it into the boys there and Andy Smith and lads like that. But no, listen, joker. We had lots of characters. Jesus, everyone we had were characters. And as I say, meeting them there, Christmas, some of the lads, you look at, Jesus, I think Damien said it there one of the days. We had great times on the field, but we had some time off it as well. Jesus, I remember the first county final we won. Was it Athenry? I think in the quarter final down in Loughrea. I'd say we must have had at least a 2-day celebration for that. Anyway, we played Clarinbridge in the semi-final. We definitely knocked 3 days out of that, and sure, we played Loughrea in the final. I'd say we must have knocked a month out of that. So. Yeah, we had good crack, good characters, all right.
Yeah, but doesn't it? You can do all the training in the world, but without a happy camp, you're heading nowhere. Anyhow.
Oh yeah, that's it. Well, that's the way I looked at it. And even the last couple of years where I might have missed a bit of training, and we lost some of the games with big margins, I just said, I'm going to go out enjoying it. That's it. I'm just going to enjoy the games. I'm not going to fall out with lads. I'm not going to fall out with refs. Just going to enjoy it. And near the end, no matter what the result, you're here, you're making friendships. Go out, enjoy it, go home. If you're having a pint, have a pint, go back to your family. Do you know what I mean? That's love. That's what it's about. And that's what it should be about for me anyway.
And do you think taking that kind of laid-back approach to the hurling in general, I suppose, and just enjoying it, do you think that actually helped you get the best out of yourself?
Well, I probably gave the perception of the laid-back approach, but you had to have the work done before it. I could give you an example. Back in 2008, we played Burr in the All-Ireland final. I remember we had a slaughterhouse at home there in the butcher shop, so I decided to buy a punching bag. And I looked around the team and I was saying, who's the man to get in here boxing with me? And I felt Leo Smith was. He was the lad that was going to get me in the shape that I needed to be in. And that's what I did. And the two of us used to go in there and nobody knew, not even, this was all outside training. So that's the kind of stuff that went on. It was very easy to get on the bus and have a bit of crack, knowing that, you were in the shape to play the game. You were in the mind. You knew you were prepared. So once you know you're prepared, as I always say, look, you can put a smile on your face. You know you're ready. Today's the day. Them are the kind of things people wouldn't see as well. You know what I mean? Our lads trained seriously hard for what we got. But like that, we were able to chill out. We were able to relax, have a bit of crack as well.
Yeah, we heard the story from Damien last week of a member of the panel who he didn't name, that used to prepare for his matches with a bit of a fag, but used to save himself with a bit of Lucasade Sport. Are you categorically denying any involvement there, or?
Well, that's definitely Eugene McEntee anyway, 100%. I can tell you that now, whether he named the player or not. When you mentioned the cigarette, I said that's Mac. But there's another man, get on the bus, no bother, have a bit of crack, put on the earphones. Geez, when he went out hurling, like probably one of the best fullbacks that ever graced club hurling in Galway, to be honest. Like, he's some crack, but Jesus, some hurler. Like, he had both. Like, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, he's involved in the championship this year with Molly. He's training them, and a lad asked me, and geez, I said he'll be brilliant. Like, especially with the young lads now as well. Like, Mac is mighty man. Like, mighty man.
I hope he's not bringing his own approach to things anyhow. Although the way things went last weekend, or maybe it is the right approach. We don't know. But,
no, I think he's off the cigarettes now for a couple of hours. Maybe a few days.
The pressure of full back, maybe just.
Yeah.
The game has changed. The game has changed, hasn't it? No such thing as getting away with that anymore. But of course, you had your bit of time in the county jersey as well. Probably through, fair to say, one of the more difficult spells for Galway, And you were there in 2005 on that All-Ireland campaign, Kevin, weren't you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's 2005. I think it was gone in 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10 or something.
Yeah.
Like I said previously, I don't be looking back over too much.
Yeah.
I suffered a couple of knee injuries, and probably going well with the club probably didn't help me either, because I was kind of, I gave it everything for the club. I probably could have did a bit more with Galway. I probably didn't fulfill that side of things as much. But look, it is what it is, and you just get on with it, don't you? We were probably unlucky in a couple of games. 2010 against Tipperary in the quarter-final. They went on then to win the All-Ireland the same year. So, 2005 against Cork, came on that day, a few minutes to go. But like that, they got probably a goal that, if they didn't get it, could have been different. But, just joined the long list of lads that put on the maroon jersey and didn't get any silverware in Croke Park after it. But, I enjoyed every bit of it,
Yeah, that being said, the trophy cabinet at home, there's still plenty of material in there, which is always nice to have as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I think with that, we won't delay too long. We have an awful lot to get through. We'll start tearing into the games of the weekend. And sure, look, we'll start off with the first game of the weekend. We'll start off with Tommy Larkins, Loughrea, Friday night. David, you were there. First game back of the year. Surprise to some people. I predicted Loughrea to win the game. I expected a bit more from them, but Tommy Larkins, in fairness, they're a team I think that always they get the best out of themselves, don't they? They're a serious outfit, in fairness to them.
Yeah, they're very well set up. I suppose probably a bit of a mini upset, would you call it? I suppose we both kind of went for Loughrea last year. But at the end of the day, we wouldn't have been too surprised either if Larkins pulled it off. Like, given the firepower they have, they've a serious attack between like.
Would it be fair to say that I think a lot of us, myself included, looked at Loughrea's setup and management and probably thought, this is like an inter-county setup. So that was for me. That's what tipped it for me.
Certainly, that was a factor in it, yeah. But I had seen them last year too, and I knew the age profile that they're bringing into it. That old team is obviously it's well gone at this stage, right? Johnny Cohen's the only kind of survivor, and even he only came into that team towards the tail end of it, and Emmett Mahoney and Brian Mahoney, a few more of these fellas. But the guys they were bringing in last year, now I saw them. The only day I actually saw them live was against Gart, and they got caught at the end for a draw in that game. But geez, for 40 or 50 odd minutes that game, they were awesome. And then, as you say, bringing in that management team, it stamps the team of a team that have serious ambitions going forward too.
Yeah, but it's the first game as well. Lads, it takes lads a while to settle down. Like Loughrea are still well and truly in the championship. And for me, on paper, I thought the two teams were very level. We played Tommy Larkins last year, and I thought they were really, really good. But then, as I say, there was a similar kind of team to Loughrea in a sense, and I just felt that when I had heard the setup Loughrea have, and I said, you know what, it could tip it in their favour. So, but they won't be going anywhere too soon now. Big second game for them, although.
Yeah, tactically, it probably took them a while to get to probably their best team as well. By the looks of it, Cohen started to kind of pull back, but he was a deep kind of sweeper. And when he came out to midfield, he had probably a much bigger influence. And Brian Mahoney came on and he shored things up back there as well. I thought he did very well, no more than, say, Cayman Killeen and Dylan Shaughnessy and a few more of these lads. I thought they were. Now, Jamie Ryan was kind of quiet in comparison to the form he was in last year, but most heavy praise was going to say, like Conor Nevin, I thought he'd done a super job on him. He was everywhere by him, and he didn't give him a sniff of it really.
Yeah, well, on Loughrea, just what you said there. Brian Mahoney, he came on, shored up the defence. Johnny Cohen, like, to me, Johnny Cohen was more suited out the field anyway. He always was. He played the sweeper role quite well. I think it was back in 2012 or 15. I'm not sure which year with Galway. But he has an engine, and when you have an engine like him, you probably need to have him out around the middle of the field. And Brian Mahoney, then he's very intelligent hurler. He's played that role for Loughrea for a long time, sweeping. Like, there isn't too many as good at the role as Brian. Now, I wasn't at the game and I didn't see it, but that to me, from reading and talking to lads about it, will definitely improve them for the next day.
A word on Kevin McHugh, David. He was one of the standout performers for Tommy's anyhow, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He was outstanding. I think he scored 2 points in the second half, and geez, there were kind of two different scores. One, he took the ball from maybe around midfield and sold it through, just pace and power out of it, and the other one then was kind of a monstrous score from his own half back line. But they did well to they tactically they were very well set up, like, as in they brought Darren Duggan, who was named at full forward. He came back out to wing forward. Ronan Murphy went to midfield then, and that kind of freed up Colin Flynn to sit very deep, and McHugh kind of was loose then. But Jesus, he set up so much. He was everything kind of good started through him, and Jesus, he's some engine, and he's strong and he's quick, and he's everything you'd kind of be looking for in a sweeper, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And he's a great understanding of the game too. He was always, playing midfield there. You look at, you're playing both sides of the game, and in that you're attacking and defending all the time. He played that role for a long time too, and kind of the first few years of his career with Tommy Larkins, and now he's grown into probably, alongside the likes of Flynn and the two Murphys, the main leaders in that Larkins team. And he's definitely a fella that Shane O'Neill, I'd say, will be looking at, bringing back in once they get going.
Yeah, we played Tommy's actually last year as well, and he was playing down at Ballinasloe, and serious engine, great strength, very good hurler. So I'm not sure was he involved with Galway before, but you'd imagine with the way the championship is being run this year and the club championship beforehand, you'd have to think lads like him now, if they stay showing form, will be seriously considered.
Definitely. And I suppose with that in the other game then, Cappy and Tina, I was at this one as well. I don't know. I don't think either of you lads happened to see it, but it finished anyway. Cappy 4-16, Tina 2-14. But Jesus, it was a bit flattering on Cappy because they only scored 2 points in, I think, 20 minutes in the second half. And during that time, Tina hit 7 wides, and they could have really got back into it. Tina were very, very wasteful. They were decent. Like, I suppose Niall Collins probably be the story of it really. The 2008 minor, he finished with 3-2. Now the first goal would probably be a Warrington might be a bit generous because it kind of was a high dropping ball and kind of came off his hand. But other than that, his third goal was something else. Like, just the composed finish. He kind of lobbed the keeper. He picked it up maybe about 21 yards from goal, and he spotted the keeper off his line and just kind of nestled it into the far post. Deserved win for Cappy, who kind of started without number of frontliners that you'd normally expect to see, like, say, Dan Nevin. Dan Nevin didn't feature at all. Donald Mannion only came on the second half, and Damien Joyce as well. So a good win, but Jesus, they'd probably be a bit worried about that kind of phase in the second half where they didn't really build upon. They had a bit of a lead and they didn't build upon it.
Well, just listening to you there, Niall Collins, they got the 3-2. That'll be a massive bonus to them, considering they didn't play Dan Nevin, Damien Joyce. You were saying Donald
Mannion, should I say?
Donald Mannion.
Yeah.
I don't know, they'd be that worried because Tina Avenary be quite good. They have a good enough side. So, like, to me, it's probably a decent enough start considering they hadn't them. But the one thing I felt with Cappataggle is if they got another forward, he sounds like a natural good forward, Niall. So I'd say that they'll be confident enough going forward now. It's nice to get that one under the belt, knowing, as I say, you've got experienced lads like Damien Joyce, and I don't know what the story is with Dan Nevin, but to me he was a brilliant under 21. He came onto the Galway scene and the league campaign midfield. And I just felt he was a real natural midfielder. I thought he would have slotted in to Galway set up very quickly, but he seems to have, I don't know, is he injuries restraining him or what's the story with him? But I'd like to see him get back in the field.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with what you're saying there with Collins. You know, he's a really natural forward. He's a great hands, good striking. Not the biggest man by any means, but nothing to say that should hold you back in attack. You know, if he can establish himself in that forward line. He played a couple of games last year, but couldn't nail down a starting spot. But the form seems to be there this year now, and if he can nail down a spot in that half forward line or full forward line, as you say, it'll add another serious string to the Cappy bow, that's for sure. And in fairness, you need to be going all guns blazing in this group to get through it, because you know you have 4 real quality teams in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and I suppose one thing about them as well, geez, they've absolutely no shortage of pace. Now Collins is no slouch either, but Jam Mannion was excellent as well. But he was kind of, Paul Killeen was kind of shadowing him, and he still took him for 3 points, and a couple of balls that he got, he absolutely burned him for speed. Like, so, Jesus, like, you wouldn't like to be a full back line coming up against that if they had Dolan on one side. Like, I mean, now Dolan came on and he went wing forward, but Jesus, just pace it's so important, isn't it? Like, Jesus, it can absolutely cut teams open, and that's why they always, another 4 goals from that they're always capable of goals too, aren't they, Cappy? Like, it's a real strength of theirs.
I'd say this time of year probably suit Cappataggle. I know the weather we're getting now is nothing like we should be getting for June, July, August, but it probably suited because they have got lads with pace and they've got strength as well. That's the one thing about Cappataggle. They have got lads out around the middle of the field. They're strong in the air. They can break ball into these smaller lads. You know, they link the play quite well. So they'll be a handful. And you're saying there that Jam Mannion, he took Paul Killeen for a few points. Like, to be honest with you, he's going to take the best of backs for 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 points. Like, he's got the pace. All you can do a lot of the time is shadow him. You just need to try and stop off the supply. Like, so I wouldn't be. There'll be lots of lads that will be man marking him this year. I'll have a handful, to be honest. And by the sounds of it, that other young fella, Neil Collins, as well.
And they've got the other end of the spectrum as well. You know, you could have the two mans in either corner, and then you could stick Ronan Garvey in at the edge of the square, and you've got the option of launching in bombs on top of them, which they've often done. And he's an awful handful there too. So kind of whatever way it comes, they're able to deal with it. Like, you know.
Yeah, no, there'll be. I think it's a good start for them, to be honest. I think it's a good start, a good win, because I've been hearing Teenabbott and Ira were going quite well, so they'll be a bit disappointed, I'd say, with the result. But they still scored 2-14. You know, it's not a bad scoring, like, you know, but they can probably keep the goals out in the next couple of games. They'll be looking to do that anyway, tighten it up at the back a small bit.
Yeah, Thomas Gordon's a big boost for them there too. He was missing the last year or two. He's a real quality forward. He got the 2 goals for them.
Yeah.
He's a real quality inside corner forward, which probably maybe something they probably lacked as well last year. You know, Shane Maloney there obviously carrying them in some ways for a good few years with his free taking and just overall striking. But Gordon is a real quality corner forward, nightmare for a back. Strong and powerful when he gets up ahead of steam as well. So he's a huge boost for them there, and he's a fella who could do a lot of damage going forward in this championship as well.
Yeah. He was a real handful for Cappy at the weekend. Really, like, the 2 goals were brilliantly taken as well. I think there were 2 crackers, if I remember correctly. But yeah, and even at that, then they had like David Jordan was sweeper and he picked off 2 points as well. So, and they points from deep as well. Whelan as well scored a point from wing back, and I suppose they probably would have needed a small bit more from Pádraig Breheny around the middle third, like, so he probably, I think he might have sniped a point, like, but he was kind of on the fringes for a lot of it, like, and you know, when he's on song, Tina can really put up to anyone, but I suppose it's kind of a bit of an uphill battle for them now, which, geez, they're staring down the barrel of the gun of like Loughrea and Tommy Larkins, and 2 must-win games, like, and on that showing, you wouldn't completely rule them out, like, but they just have to be a small bit more clinical in front of goal.
It's the beauty of this championship, though. You know, like, you couldn't rule them out. Like, you know, there's 3 lads there, 4. You're named off 4 or 5. The likes of Pádraig Breheny gets going midfield. Shane Maloney, young Thomas Gordon. There's lots of lads to score. Like, and they're not going to fear Loughrea. They're not going to fear Tommy Larkins. They're all evenly matched teams, to be honest. So on their day, they're capable of beating both them teams. No more than the same goes for Loughrea and and Tommy Larkins. So, but it's great, isn't it, the championship, to have it in such a way as it's nearly do or die straight away, like, you know.
Yeah,
It just,
definitely. And speaking of, then we'll move on to maybe the Senior A Group 2. Then I suppose probably the clash of the weekend, really, in a lot of people's eyes, was Turlough against Mellows, and Turlough got the result in the end, 118 to 116. Probably a deserved victory, wasn't it, really, lads? I suppose did you both get a look at it?
yeah, I looked at it. I was watching it live on the streaming. I thought it was a good game. Now, beforehand, I've been talking to lads. I fancied Turloughmore, and I was kind of saying they'll lay down a marker. This is the time to do it. With Lee Mellows being in the last 3 county finals, and I'd heard they were down 1 or 2 players. But yeah, they were extremely good. But Mellows actually kind of surprised me a bit. Mellows were extremely good as well. They probably got caught at the start. They went down a bit and probably left a little too much to do, and probably over-reliant on Tyg Harn to get the big scores again. They brought on Adrian Morrissey. I'm not sure why he wasn't playing now. I know he came on wing back, I think, and ended up wing forward, but he got a couple of points and he came on. Did some good performances in the backs. Sean Morrissey tore into it. He got a point or 2 as well. But they surprised me a bit more now. I thought just with being in 3 counties finals in a row, they might be a little rusty, but they obviously, lockdown came and they got it together. But Turloughmore are going to be thereabouts, no matter what way you look at it. Roland Burke pulled back, very good. The lad in the back, Sean Loftus' brother, Daniel Loftus, I thought he was extremely good. Use of the ball, excellent. Dahi Burke around the middle of the field. Like, it's unknown the amount of work that Dahi does in these little rucks. Like, you know, I was watching it closely, and the amount of times he comes out with the ball in a ruck and he lays it off to Jamie Holland, or he lays it off to Fergal Moore. He just does the right thing with the ball. He always seems to be able to come out with the ball. And then going forward, lads are talking about Turlough not having the forwards to score. I think all their forwards scored the last day, but like, had lads to come on, a couple of new lads there. Was it Barry Canlin, was it? Or Brian Barry?
Yeah.
Barry, yeah, he got 1-1, didn't he? Yeah.
Started off absolutely on fire. Turkey Burke was in full forward, causing all sorts of problems for David Collins, laying off ball. He got a pint. Then they were able to bring Badger on for Turkey. But he was able to get an all-important free. He was able to get between the ball and the man as well. At the end, it was vital. He was able to fulfil the full forward role. But the one that really stood out for me was Conor Walsh. Conor Walsh was excellent now. Jeez, I was looking at him closely when the heat came on at the end. He was able to put up the hand there once or twice, 3 times. Caught puck outs, 1 freeze. He was scoring his freeze. Laid it off. Sean Lennon was another guy I felt really up to. So Turlough are going place. That was a big win for them. But Mellows are certainly not out of this yet anyway by their performance the last day. They finished strong. John Lee seems to be back. He came on as well. So, you know, it's only going to add. Ronan Elwood was probably a loss to them. I'm not sure what his story is, but he wasn't there.
Yeah, he's injured as far as I know. But I think Mellows, I think in many ways, you know, that they were beaten and all, but I think they'll be happy enough in a lot of ways, you know. Often you've groups of 6 the last couple of years, obviously, but they've put in a couple of iffy performances in the group of 4. The only problem with this year now, that was a good performance the last day, but the only problem this year is that you can't afford another defeat now for them, you know. Overall, for our first day out, I'd say in many ways Mulqueen will be happy enough with how they went. But the thing is now you have to turn around and face into Clarinbridge and Oranmore the next 2 days and pick up points if you want to go through. So there's no such thing as getting a kind of a handy win the next day to get yourself back going again. You're staring down the barrel, as you say, straight away, you know. But on Conor Walsh there, you mentioned him there, Chunky, you know, for like a lad he's 20 this year as far as I know, the way he's grown into that setup and become a leader straight away it's testament to him too, isn't it? Of serious potential in that lad going forward, you know. And I know he's involved with the county now as well, which is great, you know. He's has the build for it. He's a good strong lad, you know. I mean, nothing fazes him in that regard. And he's a fella going forward, and it's certainly very exciting.
Oh, he was good last year now as well. He was good. I watched him in a few games. He was very good. But I just hoped he'd make the next step. Like, he was in with Galway this year. He played a few league games, but what really impressed me is when things weren't going so well. At the end, you always need big key players to stand up, and he stood up. As a young fella, 20 years of age, he definitely stood out for me when they needed him. He stood up. He was able to score his frees. He was able to win puckouts, stuff like that. It matters in big days, and they'll need it going forward. They're a good side, Turloughmore. They're physical, but the one thing I'll say about Turloughmore is they possibly overdo the hand pass. They possibly do too much passing. There was at one stage, I think, even for the penalty that Mellows got, it was Jamie Holland or someone breaking up the field. Now, I only seen it on the stream live. I didn't look back or anything, so I could be wrong. But it was one pass, two passes, three passes. They overdid it. It got intercepted. It's nearly predictable at times. The passing, like, it was pretty obvious. I don't know, was it Dahi that or Fergal Moore that laid off the pass, got intercepted, went down the field, penalty. So they need to tighten that up a small bit. But they're quite a good side. They all seem to know what they're doing, and they're going to take beat now. And it's a good start for them.
Definitely. I suppose the other game of the group then, the Ulster Derby, Oranmore-Maree, was again probably a mini shock, maybe winning 117 to 19 points. But I just on Sunday morning, myself and yourself were talking, Patrick, and it was kind of, I know we predicted Clarinbridge the last day, but Jesus, we were just chatting about as the game grew closer, and we were like, Jesus, we kind of both fancied Oranmore on the day. Like, it's the physical stature between the two teams was massive, lads, wasn't it? Really, it wasn't a case of boys and men's men, but it was damn well close.
Yeah, no, it was all right, and I was inside covering that game, and I tell you, even since last year, the way Oranmore-Maree have developed is, I don't know, it's hard to imagine how a team like that, like, it's not as if they're a bunch of young lads that have got a year older. That some of them obviously are, but a lot of them are seasoned enough at this stage. But there's just a much more of a presence and a kind of confidence about them this year going out, and the way they, looking at the game, the way they played, there's no way you could have looked at them and said that these lads are underdogs in the group, and that they didn't carry themselves in that manner at all. The approach they took to the game, they knew they had the physical edge over Clarinbridge, and in fairness, they looked to exploit that and use that straight away, and they did. They were brilliant in the kind of the first 25 minutes of that, playing with the bit of a wind that's always there in Pearse Stadium. Now, certainly wasn't as strong as you'd often see by any means, but it was worth a couple of points. And in fairness, they were absolutely brilliant. The Bridge kind of stayed with them for the first 10 minutes or so. There was very little in it, and then Niall Burke got a cracking point from out on the sideline with two fellas in on top of him, and they kicked on from there. They pushed 7 or 8 points ahead by around the 25th minute, and you'd feared for Clarinbridge at that stage now, because they just couldn't implement their game on Oranmore at all. Oranmore-Maree, I should say.
You'll be in trouble for that one.
I know, yeah. We have to watch that. In the middle third, though, they were just getting totally overpowered. All the ruck ball, they couldn't get a hand on it at all. And when they did get it, they weren't able to get good ball inside to the boys inside, which is what they needed. Them lumping balls in on top of their foot forwarding, it's worthless to them, especially when Keane Salmon's not there. I know he's back from Dubai now, but he's not in the kind of in match again, But then kind of towards the end of the half, they did start to sharpen up their touch. They got the ball into hand quicker, and they managed to get their head up and start playing nice balls into the corner for the Mark Kennedys and Andrew Monaghan's and these fellas. And they ate into the lead, and they went in only 2 or 3 points behind, and they would have been very happy with their position at half time. And then they couldn't eat into the lead again into the second half. And then Niall Burke struck the goal for Oranmore-Maree, and that put them 6 ahead. And that was a huge score, Again, the Bridge were in trouble. But in fairness to Evan Nyland, he almost single-handedly dragged them back into it. He went on a serious scoring spree. Like, he finished with 15 points and had 5 wides. That was the day against Tip in the league. they were all frees. He would have scored every single one of them that day against Tip. He just mishit a couple and didn't have his range with another couple. So he could have finished with 20 bloody points easily enough, But Oranmore-Maree, they finished well. The Conor Hannafy got 2 points in injury time after Clarinbridge had gotten back to go ahead. And in fairness, you couldn't have said any result was unfair on the other, But overall, Oranmore-Maree were probably the better team for that bit longer,
The one thing I'd say there, Oranmore were outsiders going into that game. Now, lads asked me, I fancied Oranmore just because I have this thing like they won at intermediate, they won in All Ireland, they came on, they beat Crowell, they won a few more games. They really have a winning mentality, and they knew they needed to build on. And you're after saying there, they built on again. Now, I watched it, and I just felt that Clarinbridge probably tried to play Oranmore at their own game. They knew they were going to bring the physicality. So they tried to match it, and it didn't work out for them. And then when Clarinbridge started playing their own game, spraying it into the corners, using the players they have, because to be honest with you, Clarinbridge, they're a serious side, and there will be a serious side for years to come. And that's just a fact. And Oranmore are going to be as well with the pick, the amount of hurdles they have, the underage that's coming through. But the goal that Niall Burke got probably won them the game. Simple as that. He got a chance, he stuck it in the net, and that was the winning of the game. Now, the one thing I noticed as well is Clarinbridge were getting a bit of a run on them, and there was a water break. You were there now, Patrick. You might be able to dwell on it more, but I think they must have taken, was it many minutes did it take for this 1 minute water break? It kind of breaks the momentum as well. And it's
it's definitely something. Go on.
Yeah, go on, David.
No, it's definitely something.
Both halves, They definitely took at least 2 minutes and left the bridge out there for a minute. And both halves,
like we're getting frustrated out there.
Yeah, naturally, you're kind of. You want to get back going, as you say, especially in the second half. Clarinbridge, they had ground to make up, and
they had the win.
As a player, even though the ref does add it on at the end, at the time as a player, it doesn't feel like that. You're like, gee, these lads are wasting our time here. They're running out the clock. But it gave Oranmore the chance to, get together, get the heads together again. The boys, I'm sure, had a word with them, and whereas water breaks shouldn't be used for that, because there's only a minute there. You shouldn't have time to get them any messages across or anything like that. It's a case of getting in, getting your drink, and getting straight back out, really,
Yeah. They're definitely being used. They're being abused probably for managers giving team talks and slowing it down, because I know for a fact from playing, like if you're playing and you're going well, you get a couple of points in the trot. Jesus, you don't want the game to stop for half time or anything, but Jesus, 15 minutes into the game and you're going well, you definitely don't want to stop. But you can't buy a stop then from the other side of it before this. So, it must be a dream come true to break the momentum for a team that's after getting, say, a goal gone in here, a couple of points. It must be a dream come true to have this little water break. I know it's all part of COVID and all this has to be done, but they're probably going to have to clamp down some way on it, because you can't have lads going in for 3-4 minutes doing team tactics and half not even taking a sip of water.
Yeah, and in fairness, you could hear like Clarinbridge for the second half especially. You could hear the Clarinbridge players roaring at the ref. Come on, throw it in. Brian Keown was in the middle. He said, "I can't throw it in."
Listen, I'm not sure the HSE know what they're doing, so I don't blame Brian Keown down in Fair Stadium for not blowing it. But it's a tricky one, to be fair. You definitely need to come up, but one whistle goes, you get in, and a second whistle goes, and the ball has been thrown in. And you can't have lads telling players what to do and tactics, but anyway.
But the amount of lads say that don't know where the ball is when they come back out in the field, and they're looking towards their own goal, and they're looking towards, they're looking towards the opposition goal, and they're wondering where it's going to come from. And I think it was in that game as well. Was it Rory McInerney was pretending then he had no ball beside him?
Did that going on as well?
He was looking for. There was this kind of crack going on, but definitely I'd agree with you. I don't think managers should have the opportunity to have this 2-minute chat to restructure things.
Well, one way to sort that is the manager's not allowed in. Do you know what I mean? There's a dedicated water carrier or whatever anyway, so the manager should be just told, listen, you're not allowed in, that's it. And the 15 players go over and get their water and they go. That's it.
It shouldn't take more than 30 seconds.
Anyway.
Yeah. But it shouldn't take more than 30 seconds, really. Like, do you know what I mean? This 2 minutes is just crazy altogether. Like,
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's tough on a team that's trying to come back into a game. It breaks momentum, and there's no way of denying it. It's a great thing for one team, and it'll be a disaster for another team. Simple as that.
yeah. Just on that game, then I suppose a big worry for Clarinbridge would be the fact that they scored 19 points, but again, you mentioned Evan Lynan scored 15 of them. Like, Jesus, it's like he can't afford him to be put. You can't afford to be relying him to put the team up on his back as well, you know, and drag them to victory every day. There's a few other lads in that attack that are definitely going to need to have to step up. Like,
certainly not every day, no. And like Nyland he started inside at 14, and as I said, the ball just wasn't coming in, so he went out around the middle, and he played centre forward, like, but was kind of roaming. You know, he had license to go deep and get on ball, which at the time they needed, but they also needed him off the other end to put it over the bar. Then, you know, but like when, you know, he marking Garage Mac for a lot of the second half. You know, we all know that the size and physicality difference that's there, but even so, like, you know, if he gets ball and even Garage is right in front of him, he has the ability to turn and strike over his shoulder, you know, on the back foot, which not a lot of lads have. Like he really can, off his left especially, he'll score, he can score and will score from anywhere. But yeah, no, like, in fairness, Andrew Monaghan hurled well. He got a point. He caused a bit of bother. Mark Kennedy was taken off and had a couple of nice touches in the first half, but wasn't overly in the game. And in the half forward line, then they had Christy Brennan making his championship debut. Again, he did all right, but I don't know, is he a natural forward really? You know, I know Pres Athenry have him out there playing out there. Patrick Foley started centre forward, but it wasn't until he went to midfield that he really started to get into the game, you know. So yeah, they are lacking a small bit there, maybe in terms of scorers to go alongside Ireland. And
I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be okay. They have lads. At the end of the day, he got 11 frees. He missed 5 frees. That's 16. So, like, I don't know, but I doubt he won the 16 frees. So,
yeah,
lads must be you know, that on
true.
another day. You would be expecting, though, in Pierce Stadium with all the space, with the young side that Clarinbridge have, that they knew, like everybody knew, that Oranmore would try and bully them and physically bully them. So they probably were a bit naive from the off. They should have nearly been playing their own game rather than trying to play Oranmore at the physical game. But Clarinbridge are a good side, lads, and they'll be all right. They'll be thereabouts.
yeah,
That group now I'm talking about.
yeah. Just suppose then on to the third group then in Senior A. I suppose we'll start with Sarsfields and Portumna, Chunky, I suppose. Well in it. They were, Jesus, well in it before the 2 sentences offside. Just they put it. I was mightily impressed with them now, because you nearly would have, looking at last year, you would nearly said there were certainties to go down. But some of the young lads that showed up, like I think you mentioned them and elsewhere and the lead up to the games, like to say Fogarty and Declan McLaughlin and a few more of these lads, they were really impressive.
To be honest, Portumna would have targeted that game. They genuinely would have believed they would beat Sarsfields. You know, they would have. They had 3 or 4 challenges pledged. They had won them all, so they hadn't, like, these young lads after coming into a team this year. Every game they played, they had won. They weren't expecting to go out and lose. They were in the game. You know, what was it? Won 16 to 16 points at the time. Oranmore-Maree was flying up front. A couple of young lads. Neil was going well. Adam Fogarty, we could have got a goal out of that. He got a pint. Young Joe Madden was going well. O'Sheen was going well at the back. Along with the season campaigners, Martin Dolphin, you know, Jack started to get into it as the game went on. Andy, you know, was carrying an injury, but I don't know how he even plays. He had a hamstring injury, and he was going well as well. Like, but him going off was the first bit of a disaster, because, like, at the minute, we probably need everyone on the field like that. And then Joe went, and then Jack went. So, like, truth being told, if we kept 15 on the field, I'd say we would have been thereabouts at the end, because them big players, them Oranmore-Marees, Andy, Joe, obviously, like, at the end of it, last 5 minutes, lads get a bit jittery. But you lads that have done it before in Crow Park, they don't seem to get nervous. And, you know, we could have got a result out of that, and the lads will be bitterly disappointed, and they'll rally on again for the next day. But it's going to be awful tough now, because I looked at the other game as well, and I didn't realise that Castlegar were as strong as they are this year. So look at, That was Portumna. Yeah, it was disappointing, to be honest. Like the scoreline definitely didn't reflect how the game went for me, anyway.
And I suppose one thing, they more than likely you'd imagine Portumna will appeal Joe's red card, and you'd by looking at the video footage, you'd imagine it would have to be rescinded, wouldn't it? Really, like it was.
Yeah.
They probably like not a yellow, nothing really in it at all. Kind of just trying to pick up, trying to get himself back up, and just kind of the helmet seemed to just come off at the same time. Really, wasn't that?
I saw it, as I say, it wasn't at it. I saw it on the telly. It was a bizarre 60 seconds, to be honest. Nightmare stuff, really, because, like, as I say, we can't afford to get anyone sent off. But, like, there was a bit of a tangle and nothing in it, and then it was a red. And you knew by Joe's reaction straight away that he didn't pull the helmet off him. So, like, obviously, I'd say it probably has been rescinded already with the video footage.
You'd imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Look, the only thing I'll say about it, I'm not going to come on here and start giving out about this lad and that lad, and I'm sure there's enough people do it, and it's not my nature. But the one thing I'll say on these red cards and yellow cards and stuff like that, you have to be 100% sure. You have to be 100% sure to send someone off in that instance. I don't know who was on a linesman, but like if the ref goes over to the linesman and he says, "Did he pull the helmet off him?" He obviously didn't, and he must have said he did. So it's just crazy, because like it's Senior B, there's no relegation playoff. We've targeted to play Sarsfields in the first game. We know we have a great shout. Then you have a man red carded straight away when things are going okay. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but we were going okay. And we could have won it. And God knows what had happened if he got the win. But the minute Joe went off, then Jack went off. I didn't really see Jack's, to be honest, but by all accounts, he took the helmet off another fella, but he actually did it. So the lads were saying that he probably deserved the red. But even that rule in itself, I'm not 100% on it. Like, the bit I seen, I don't know how dangerous it looked. And anyway, it's just disappointing, because I tell you, we played Castlegar last year, and we were going quite well in the same game. We were actually going, sorry, I apologize. We were going terrible in the same game. We were about 10, 11 points down. But we started to claw it back, and we were missing a lot of our main players like Joe. And we just started to win a couple of puck outs and win a few frees. And, geez, we had it back to 3 points, I think it was, at the time. And there was a line ball under the similar slide to that linesman, Athenry, and Oranmore-Maree. I don't know what happened, but he ended up shouldering, I think it was some Sean Neary or something. He ended up putting his head or something, but it wasn't a red card. But they asked the linesman and the ref, and they decided among themselves what they should do. And because they saw the blood, they decided it was a red card, and they gave him a red card, and Rome went off. We lost the game by 16 points, and the red card was rescinded. The game was videoed. It was actually videoed by Castlegar. They gave us the video, and we're more or less saying, like, his helmet or something. No, he hit him his shoulder or whatever it was, but that ruined us in the group last year. We had too many injuries. That was a game we could have won. I just felt the last day, if we kept all our players on the field. Now, Jack's, to me, might have been something that after Joe or whatever, he might have been the heat of the moment. So, like, if Joe stayed on, the chances are maybe Jack wouldn't have got sent off either. But it was just a couple other decisions. I just felt the flow of the game. Now, while that might have suited Portumna, I just felt the flow of the game wasn't great, to be honest. It was free, and there was a couple of yellows, and look, that's the way it goes. But as I say, I'm not going to be giving out and roaring about lads here. It's just disappointing, because it is going to be rescinded. And the one thing I'll say is, you need to be 100% sure, and that's at all levels, and it's at all sports. You can't give a red card, in my view, and it's only my opinion. You have to be sure if it's a red card. If you're 100% sure, that's fair enough. If you're only 80% sure, and your linesman or whoever it is only 80% sure, you just can't send them off. I know it might be the wrong decision, but you can't send them off. That's just it.
And now more than ever, it is massive implications, say, because it's only 4-team groups as well. So you're like Portumna now are in, you know what I mean? They're really, really struggling to get out of this group. But, Do you know what I mean? Like so, but like whereas if that decision didn't happen, you know what I mean. You're looking at running Sarsfields down, them down perhaps down the home stretch. But I suppose just before we talk about Sarsfields for a second, I suppose Ronan O'Mara's performance again. Jesus Christ, had 6 points from play. I think did he clock up what was it, 12 or 13 against Thomas's from play last year?
Yeah, last year. Look at
incredible from. Do you know what I mean?
He's
scores
like
he get from anywhere really in the attack.
And he gets attention. I've watched him close up. He gets a lot of attention, like from defenders and lads pick him up. But the guy's got a great hurling brain. You know, as I said to a lad the other day, it's not like he's going out picking up loose ball, and he knows where the ball is going, which is his brain is ahead of other lads. His touch is phenomenal. He can strike off both sides. He got a point down on the left wing there. He took it off.
Yeah.
One of the Sarsfields lads there, like, and he hadn't, like, your man was just rising it to catch it and poke it out, and he hadn't even risen, it was gone over the bar. I'd say he was going, oh my God, where does that come out of? Like, you know, he has that ability. He's got great vision. He, as I said it before, he can play in the right corner, left corner, full. He can play out around the middle of the field. In fact, he'd actually drive you cracked at training, because I'd say if I trained with him, I don't know how many years, I don't know, has he ever scored a point or a goal at training? Because he won't do it, because he just loves hitting these balls all over the place. He's gifted, like, he's gifted. And you should look at, if he continues this form, who knows, hopefully he might get another shot at the goal. I don't know, but like, it's hard to see him not getting another shot if he continues the form.
Just on Sarsfields, I suppose, they had 9 different scorers throughout it. I know some of them probably clocked over a few near the end when the Portumna were down to 13. But Joseph Cooney with 1-3, Kevin Cooney with 1-7, young Ellis Kinnear with 3 points. They looked lively as well, didn't they? Particularly in attack. Yeah,
look at it's the tricky one, as I say. Like, there wasn't an awful lot of lads going awfully well from play. To me, in my view, before the sending off, when it was 116 to 16, when it opened up, like, even Joe Cooney got a good few scores. He got 1-1 or 1-2 at that stage. The corner forward to me looked very, very lively.
Alex Kinnear, yeah.
Alex Kinnear, yeah. And you know what? He was on one of our newcomers now, Joe Madden. I thought Joe Madden hurled very well now. Very well, because that lad, to me, that Alex Kinnear looks like the real deal. And in fairness, Joe was a bit unlucky at one stage. He turned him, and I think there was that tiny little pull at the jersey, like very little. And he got through, and Joe got back and flicked the ball, and he brought it back for a free in. But I thought he looked really lively, but I actually thought, for a young lad, Joe Madden making his debut, he did excellent. He did very well. But he looks to be a real prospect for Sarsfields. The guy came on then, what's his name?
Jeffrey Lawless.
Jeffrey Lawless. Did he score 2-2 or something? But then again, the game was well and truly open at that stage. Like, you know, we couldn't afford, like, with Andy gone off injured, Joe gone off, and Jack gone off, like, they were, you know, massive loss to us. Like, you know, you need leaders on the field, and the young lads would be following them lads, you know.
Just to the other game then in the group, I suppose Thomas's late rally against Cashel looked with real bother around half time there. They were well off the pace, it seemed to be, and just from locally out home, it was the first half I know was described as septic by many. That's how they were. That's how they refer to it now. But that's not disparaging Cashel at all. A word who made Thomas's look very poor in the first half, didn't they? Really, it was an outstanding performance by Cashel.
Yeah, well, I watched that game. I streamed that game at home, and to be honest with you, it was as good a value for money now as you'd get on any Sunday game with inter-county hurling. You'd probably have to feel for Castlegar, like they had the game in their grasp. But Jesus, you have to hand it to Thomas's. They were down, you know. Cathal Burke didn't start. It looked like Bernard Burke was injured. Jarrett, probably one of their best performers every year for the last number of years. He went off injured, and it just looked like David Burke had been kind of out of the game. It just looked like it wasn't possible for them to get the win, because Castlegar probably couldn't have been going any better from their goalie out to the full forward. It just, I don't know how they didn't get a result, to be honest, but you have to hand it to to St. Thomas. It's a real true sign of champions. They just never give up. Always kept them in with a chance of a score of winning. Like, but yeah, Jesus Castlegar, they're a well drilled side. Fergal Lynch, he gets great reports. He was with the Clare Miners. He had them really. I know Ginny Cahill has given them a hand as well, but they're a really, really, really well drilled side. So they are.
Yeah, like they find performances all over the field as well. Young Neary sitting in the sweeper. I think Dean Higgins did he scored 3 points in play, and just the two men.
I think he actually got 4 points in play today in the first half.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the two men inside line as well. Jesus Thomas's full back line looked in all kinds of bother with Oisin Connolly and Concannon. What was it, 3-3 between them? And young Connolly scored 2-3 from play as well. He looks like a real prospect as well, doesn't he, lads?
Yeah, geez, like he was decent. Now I think he played last year against us. He was decent, but he was outstanding. He's got nearly everything you want out of a full forward. He can win his own ball in the air. He's great vision to throw it out. He set up the goal for Enda Concannon, who took it very well. And when things were going bad at one stage in the second half, he was able to get another goal. He's got a great eye for the goal. But back to the other guys, Dean Higgins, massive for Castlegar now to have him going that well. It's probably a few years since he's been going that well. And he looked to be flying it. So if they can keep it going. There's a guy there playing with Castlegar. I marked myself. I think his name is Cathal Ryan. Is he the fullback?
Oh yeah, excellent. Yeah.
This guy to me is as good a fullback that's out there in Galway, to be honest. And we will see more of him. Now, you wouldn't hear a lot about him, but I know it firsthand from marking him. He doesn't say a lot. He just goes about his business. He's very good. He'll probably be a bit disappointed with the conceding the goals at the end, but I don't see they were his fault in any way. It's just you're dealing with players like David Burke and Burke, Conor Cooney. You're going to concede at times. It's just a pity for them that it happened at that time. But that guy is one for me to watch out. I know that a lot of lads, Oisin Connolly and the other lads, midfield and stuff. But that guy is a very, very, very good fullback, and he'll take. He needs to be watched going through the championship because it's a position it's very hard to find in Galway. Really good fullbacks.
Just probably finally on Thomas's. Then I suppose the key for them is they're probably so many match winners all over the field, particularly in attack. Like as you said, David was probably quiet, although that hand pass for Aina's goal was brilliant stuff. Like he can always produce these moments of magic, like Connor as well with the late goal. But you had lads like say I suppose Aina scored 1-2, Oisin Fannery with 4 points. Brendan Farrell with 3 points. They've scored some all over, really, like, don't they? Like, even as Shane Cooney from the half-back line and Finton as well.
Yeah, Brendan Farrell did very well now when he came on because I'm sure he's the kind of lad that would have been disappointed not to be started. You know, he's a lot of games under his belt for Thomas's, but I'd say he was only on the field about 15 seconds and his first ball over the bar, so that probably settled him down straight away. The one thing I'll say about Thomas's is they conceded 118. Was it 118? Was it 118?
118, yeah.
318.
No, it was more than 118.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
3. Got 3.
That's
they
right.
conceded 3 goals, and it's something. As I say, it's only my opinion, but I think they'll probably the two things that stood out for me with Thomas's. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the country going forward. But David Burke, to me, probably doesn't really work a wing forward. Even lads say his legs, I don't know. I couldn't see how his legs would be gone. I just think David Burke is one of the most natural midfielders around and always has been from day dot since I've seen him hurl. He needs to be doing his own thing in midfield. That's just my own view. And the second thing is, I think they need to tighten up their full back line a small bit. We have an awful lot of players that can probably play in half back line midfield. And I think going forward, you probably need to put Finton Burke back in the full back line because he's a strong fella, he's fast, he's good hands, he's a bit JJ Delaney-esque, like he's very similar in style. I just think going forward to be very secure, not be conceding 3 goals. Like they have 3 good hurlers in the full back line, don't get me wrong. I just think you need someone like that when you can afford to put him back because they're a great centre back, they're great lads going forward. That'll be the only 2 observations for me. and they need to probably get a couple of their injuries back as well.
Yeah, I'd agree entirely. I suppose then we'll move on to Senior B Group 1. Gart and Crowell was postponed due to the tragic passing of David Herr, and that game is refixed for this Thursday at 7 p.m. So probably streamed as well. So we'll probably just move on to Ballinderry and Kinvara. Now I was at this one, so there was 3 points in it in the end, but there was, I'd say, Ballinderry were worth a lot more for their victory than 3 points. They were by far and away a better team outside Whelan. Really, Kinvara didn't really offer a whole lot. Tom O'Donovan picked off 1-1, all right, but Whelan really, like, he was in charge with creating the chances, and he was going to have to put them over as well at the same point. Like, so I was very impressed with Ballinderry. Now I must say they were well organised all over, and Robbie Lane, I thought, done an excellent job. The strength and conditioning coach with the Galway Camogie team, he done an excellent job of pull back on Whelan, and he held them to 2 points, which a lot of inter-county defenders wouldn't be even able to do. Michael Kelly was very good in goal. I was really impressed with him. Now I must say, he's had a couple of nice stops, and he got good range in his puck outs. Whether he wanted to go short or long, he was able to do anything. And then just even in attack, then they had like the kind of midfielders who could pick off scores, like with Ryan Lane and Shane Larkin. And 2 lads probably the most impressed me were the 2 young fellas inside, Niall Cohen and Luke Prendergast, who was making his debut in the 1-1. But all in all, I was very impressed with Ballinderry. And I think we talked last week, Patrick, about how well set up they are, and you know, they're a really good team now at this point, aren't they?
They're a right good side, and people, they probably don't get the respect they deserve from most corners. Like the last 2 years, they've got into the last round of games in Senior B with a chance of progressing if they won their last game, and it hasn't worked out for the last 2 years against Clarinbridge and Mulla. But like, geez, they're so balanced, and they know their roles. Things don't change a lot in terms of their setup, you know. Like Robbie Land was detailed the last day to follow Whelan. That's not something they'd always do, but when you're coming up against a player of the caliber of Whelan, it's something you have to do, especially when you know that he's really, if you stop Whelan, you're going to stop Kinvara. You know, that's the bottom line to it. Yeah, like 3 points, as you say, they were worth. They were kind of flattered Kinvara in a lot of ways. You know, it's a really good start for Ballinderry. And I tell you, for whoever loses between Gart and Crowell, if they have to face Ballinderry next, I tell you, they have a serious battle on their hands. Ballinderry will really fancy themselves to have a right cut off one of those teams, and going in with a win. If they get a second win, they're through, like, you know. And then you're looking at one of the big two, Gart and Crowell. They're out of it, like, you know. They're in a good spot now. It's great to get that win first game out, and now they have a license to have a cut at the two teams coming up next, you know. I wouldn't put it past them producing a shock against either of them.
Yeah. And just on Kinvara then, Chunky, I suppose by what I saw anyway, you mightn't have seen it, but Jesus, looks like it could be a real uphill battle for them to stay up this year.
Look, it is, and I know they've a lot of work put in this year already, and they're going to try their best. And but the thing about it is, there's a big step up there from intermediate, you know, and like last year, the truth being told, they really turned around intermediate last year. They weren't going well at all, and they literally turned it on for 3 games. They got to the quarter final, and next thing, bang, 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 they wound up senior. You know, no one expected them to come up last year. Looking at some of the drew, I seen them drawn with Ceylon down the stadium and other results. You know, and it was by nearly default they ended up. I think it was Kilkenny that actually kept them in the championship at one stage, and then they ended up beating Kilkenny in the final. So look at, they'll regroup. They have plenty of young hurlers, but it's not going to be easy. You know, it's not going to be easy. Like they've Gort next, and after Gort, I think they have Crowell. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or whichever
way, yeah.
Yeah, but like the truth being told, Kinvara are probably not going to beat Crowell, and they're probably not going to beat Gort. So they're going to be fighting relegation. So that's what they need to be. That's what they need to be preparing for. Like, you know, and that's, you know, we had to do it last year at senior A. You kind of know in your heart and soul you're going, we're probably not going to win this game, that game now, but we need to be ready for a relegation, and that takes on a whole new different life, as lads know, like, so.
And I suppose with Whelan in their ranks then as well, they always have a chance, like, and you know, in a relegation game, you wouldn't be too excited about facing them either, like, so. But just moving on then probably to the Senior B Group 2. Patrick, I'll probably let you take the reins for this one as much as you can. Your draw with Athenry, kind of a game of swings and roundabouts, wasn't it? You went in front, they pegged you back, and they went in front, and yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'd say both teams kind of came out of the game the last time wondering, am I happy with this now, or how do I feel about getting a point here? You know, because in many ways,
don't give away too much now.
Yeah, no, I'm safe enough. Don't worry. But no, it's hard to know, was it a case of point lost or point gained? You know, certainly from our own halftime position, we were in a good spot to win the game. We were 12 points to 8 ahead, but then our third quarter let us down badly. You know, we conceded a soft enough goal from a 21, and in fairness, that's right. They turned on the afterburners in that third quarter, and from a position where we were 12-8 up, we were 115 to 14 points down just inside the final quarter, we'll say. And, you know, in that time as well, we missed a penalty. Until we hit it for us and just hit the outside, shaved the outside of the post and went wide. So the water break came right after that, and which was good for us in many ways. As you say, we spoke earlier on, Chunky, you know, the difference it makes momentum-wise. It gave us a chance to kind of regather our thoughts, even though there was no big speeches from management or anything, because we stuck to the minute. But no, you know, when you go out, then you have 12 or 13 minutes then, and although Athenry started the final quarter well again, we kind of, I don't know, was the case of just getting a bit of energy back into us or what, but we kicked on well, and we hit 5 in a row, and went back in front by a point. One of our debutants, he scored what we hoped would be the winner, Conall Keane, his first game. So unfortunately, then of course Athenry had to go down and spoil it for us. And Killian Lawless, in fairness to him, he got a brilliant point from over the dugout side down to the far goal. It's a great score now, in fairness to him, under that pressure. And Derek Kelly was reffing, and he blew it up straight away after that. Anyhow, you know, probably only had 2 or 2.5 minutes of injury time played, which when you take water breaks into it, there was hardly any injury time played. But you know, the way it was going, I don't know, if you stay going for another minute, either of us could have won it, you know. So certainly not the worst start for either team, you know. If you win your next game, both teams are in a good spot heading to the final round anyhow, you know. So certainly better than a defeat anyhow, that's for sure.
Chucky, you would have experience of playing Beha. I suppose one of the games you probably in Loughrea, Beha in Loughrea, used to be nearly the stuff of nightmares one time for a lot of senior teams. You'd be thinking, Jesus, no.
I no doubt it still is.
No, yeah. Yes, it is, yeah. For Athenry, it probably would have been Jesus Christ above anyone Beha in Loughrea. But no disrespect, Patrick, or anything like that. But
sorry,
you know, because they're always going to bring a committed performance, aren't they, really? And you know what you're going to get with them.
Listen, if you were in the pub and having a couple of pints and talking to someone about club teams, you just always would admire Beha, what they've always done for such a small pick. I remember going down to Athenry one year, and we were playing a county semi-final. I think it was county semi-final, and Beha were playing after us, or before us. And there was lads coming on with bandages on their knees, bandages around their thighs, bandages on their elbows. And I was kind of saying, is that lad after coming off and coming on? It was only a panel of about, I'd say 18, 19. And here they were, this county quarter, I think it was a semi-final at the time.
Semi-final would have been that time, yeah.
And I was kind of going we played them in league finals, we played them in other games, and it was like, they're so battle hardened, but you get everything out of Beha, everything, like every last bit, and they've got seriously good hurlers, and people don't realise it, you know. Like even before that game, people were talking about Athenry and they're a coming team, and myself, I wouldn't know a lot of the Athenry lads, but I know a lot of the Beha lads, and Brendan Gantley is back as manager, and to me, Brendan was a coach for us as well, coach manager, and I'd have Brendan up there, one of the top coaches that ever coached any team that I was ever involved in. And I don't say that lightly. He was definitely up there. A brilliant coach. Just his attention to detail, everything is very good. So it won't surprise me if Beha go on and win another couple of games. I know they only got a draw the last year, but that's still not a bad result. And Athenry, I'd say, would be happy enough to come out with a draw as well. I'd say Athenry, wouldn't have realised what they were coming up against. Yeah. People don't, like, you think Baha, all right, yeah, bookies probably had Athenry as favourites, and just everything plays into Baha, and to just give you, like, Rory Gantley, he's still playing as well, like, and just serious warriors down there. And you can't have anything, only admire what goes on in Baha, everything, the community, the do-up, everything. James Redstone doing a brilliant job down there. Fair play.
Just on Athenry a second, Patrick, because I didn't see the game, and I don't think you did either, Chunky. Could you just give us a rundown? And I know it's a difficult position. I heard Noel Keogh was very good wing back, but would it be right in saying that he'd be one of their standout performers?
Yeah, of course they're missing Conor Burke. He's out in New Zealand now, so that's a big void left in their defence. So Paddy Hannon's back centre back, where he would have played a lot in previous years, but he kind of had pushed forward around centre forward last year and that. So he was back centre back, and Noel Keogh beside him. And yeah, hurled very well there. Hurled very well. He's a huge man. He's a fine athlete. No more than Paddy Rabbit full forward. You know, he caused no end of bother too. In fairness, he's a fella who, like, last year would have been his first real year having a full go at being an outfielder. Of course, having been an All-Ireland minor winning goalie a couple of years back. You know, so he's growing into that all the time as well. And lads outside him, of course, we all know about Keane Burke at this stage. He's a fine club hurler, serious attacker, you know, great pace, great power about him. And they've other fellas outside him, the likes of Owen Hardiman, Owen Caulfield's there now as well. You know, the lad's capable of scoring. And
John Grealish Hardiman as well.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. Serious asset.
Yeah.
Serious asset there. Between puck outs and shot stop, and he's one of the best around, certainly in the county. You know, it's a real launch pad for them. His short puck outs, because they do like to play through the lines, play a running game. You know, the average age of their team it must be 23 or 24 at the very most. I'd say down around 23. You know, so naturally, when you have players of that kind of that age group, you know, that's the kind of game you're going to play. Although I would say, having played them last year in the first round and this year again, in the year, physically they have gotten stronger. I noticed it in a lot of the fellas, you know. So look, they're a team that are going to be around for a long time, and the only way is up for them. An awful lot of those fellas would have won 1A medals last year, you know. So certainly going on to the next two rounds, they'll probably fancy themselves to still go on and top the group, and certainly have every chance of doing that. Yeah,
I'd say if they developed one or two maybe more natural forwards, they'd be a very hard team to break down. They probably only have one or two real scoring forwards. Now, I could be wrong, just from what I've seen the last couple of years. You have Keane Burke, who's obviously their main forward. I just think they're probably lacking a small bit up front.
Yeah, certainly they need everyone to hit form in attack anyhow, you know. As I say, on a day where Hardiman catches form, he's capable of hitting 6-7 points from play easily from anywhere, you know. But it's a case of going out and doing it every day, hitting your 3 and 4 points from play every day, you know. That's what it takes to be really consistent and top quality club player, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they've loads of resources as well. They've plenty of players coming, so they won't be going anywhere too fast. You know, they'll be around for a good while, as you say.
For sure. Just on the second game, then in the group, Clarinbridge left it late. I think stoppage time kind of rush got them over. Johnny Glenless Ardrahan.
Yeah, no sign of Big Johnny anyhow. You know,
quarantine lads, I'd say.
I don't know. We'll find out in a week and a half's time.
Anyway, as you said, if he
what I say, even
surely spot him somewhere.
Yeah, if he was there in the ground at all, I definitely would have seen him. You know, but decent game now. Decent game in fairness. Two quite even teams. Clarinbridge led for most of it, and Ardrahan rather got 2 goals in the second half. One from a penalty, which would have been the first score of the half, which put them 2 ahead at the time. And then Clarinbridge kicked back in front and were leading by 3 coming up towards full time. And then Keenan Fahy got their second goal. Brilliant goal in fairness. Derek, his brother, hit a long free in, and he caught it on the side of the box, we'll say, and lost his hurl, was totally bottled up, and he just threw it and had a hack with his left foot and managed to squeeze it in the bottom corner somewhere. You know, it was a huge score for them, but like the first goal, they didn't kick on after it. Clarinbridge came straight back down, got the next point, and Ardrahan levelled it again. But then Clarinbridge, Tommy Earls making his debut, came off the bench making his debut. He got a point to put them back 1 in front, and then within less than a minute they had 2 more scored. One from a short puck out that went wrong. Eimer Craven got a point and Luke Linsky got a point. So in the end it ended up a 3-point victory, which on the overall balance of it they probably deserved, to be fair. They were the better side, even though Ardrahan will have fair regrets in that the amount of wides they hit. 12 wides overall, 7 of which were frees, between Sean Gardner and the 2 fatties, Keenan and Derek. That's certainly something they'll want to sharpen up on,
Yeah, and Brian Burke was outstanding. Was he? He was probably
brilliant.
The players,
Brilliant,
really.
Yeah. Yeah, played started centre forward. Iarla Tanyan was. They had a couple of man marking jobs going. Ardrahan did. They had Pierce McCran was back following Brian Concannon, tagging him between full forward and left half forward. And in fairness, did an excellent job. Concannon only got a point. Caused a small bit of bother, but certainly if you're keeping him out from goals, stopping him from getting in behind defences, and he'll score a goal from anywhere. He's a brilliant shot, in fairness to him. It goes a good way to kind of trying to stop Clarinbridge anyhow. But on the other side of it, Tanyan hadn't as much joy with Brian Burke. He had a bit of bother last year with his knee. Brian did. Missed a couple of games towards the end of the year, but was back, and I thought he was moving very well now. He's a fella. I tell you, if he gets up ahead of steam, there is absolutely no stopping him. And
I heard he's fit looking now as well. Like because he was always a serious hurler. Great race, very powerful man, big, able to win his own ball in the air. No, I haven't seen him this year, Anthem, but I was talking to a lad in Loughrea that played them in a challenge, and he said he was outstanding. So he's obviously continued his form into the first round of the championship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they moved him in. He went in full forward for the start of the second half, and it totally took him out of the game. It's a move. It kind of backfired for them at the time, and they brought him back out then for the last quarter. That he struck over a couple of massively important points from play. Definitely their standout player. David Concannon was excellent in midfield too. He's a serious club hurler in fairness, and has been for a long time. So the two of them combined for the goal. Yeah.
Yvain or Ryan still playing as well. They've still have experience.
No, they've a lot of good hurlers. They've a lot of good hurlers there, and in the backs, Declan Connolly is a serious club hurler. Jack Fitzpatrick is one who can go on and be a serious inter-county hurler. He's centre back for them, and he's a real dominant presence there. He's a big man. He's powerful, and he's good in the air. He's a really good player there too. Yeah, certainly, it's an awful even group. Ardrahan have lost the first round. They're bottom of the group, but God, they could end up topping the group and going out. It's that sort of a group. It's that sort of a group. Very hard to predict anything that's going to happen there for sure.
Grand. And just we'll move on to Group 3 then. Hasker beating Pierce's. I don't know. Did any of us see any of this? But it's kind of a result that you nearly felt was coming, wasn't it? Really, it just kind of heard that Hasker had been going reasonably well in challenge games, and the kind of new kind of system with Sean Blahins playing centre back and Cahill midfield and Pádraig Mannion centre forward. It's just trying something new, and it seems to kind of revitalise them, and the rejig seems to have helped. Like her Sean Blahins was excellent at centre back.
Yeah, to me, he looks like he could be an exceptionally good centre back. I know we obviously know what Pádraig offers to the side at centre back, but it mightn't have been working out with Sean Blahins up there, and they might have just tried it, and it's working. I know Portumna played them; they beat them there. I think it was a challenge recently, but by all accounts, they have a great system. They're well able to play ball. Hasker Fona, they play a short game. They can play a sweeper at times, but they can score. You've got 3 lads there alone who can take goals from long distances as well. So they'll be happy with that result anyway.
Yeah, because they bet Pierce actually bet Hasker last year by 7. So
it's 7 first round.
It's a 12-point turnaround, and Sir Donald is a big loss, but Jesus, it's a worrying result for Pierce's, isn't it? Really.
Well, the thing about Sir Donald, if Searle is playing, or if he's not playing, to me, he'd be driving standards and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that standards weren't driven or whatever, but you definitely, you definitely miss a leader like that, you know, that's coming from inter-county setups, you know, to drive along some of the younger lads, etc. So he definitely would have left a hole out in Pádraig Pearson's, because I've seen them playing numerous games over the years, like, and he's been a complete stalwart centre back. You've seen him centre field, I've seen him centre forward, full forward. He's been all over for them, like, you know, so he'll definitely would have been a big loss for them. But as I say, Haskell have improved immensely, even in a year. And even that small little tweak there with Sean Blaine and Pádraig Mannion, like, as I say, I think he's a great build of a man, that Sean Blaine, like, he has the hurling, so who knows, he could be a future centre back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. In fairness, Kevin Ward, he's a really astute manager, really good up and coming manager, young enough man. Could go on and have a fine career for himself in the game. But yeah, as you say, like, I saw a Haskell were in our group last year, so we would have played them ourselves, and I would have seen them in a couple of their own games just from reporting on them myself. And Blaine, he wasn't going very well in attack, and when you have a player of that caliber in a club like a Haskell Bohana, like, you know, you need him to be firing on all cylinders.
Two years ago, he'd be similar age to Jack Canning, and I know we were playing. Yeah. Jack had a tremendous year there in the forwards with us, maybe 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago he was just having a tough. It was like second year syndrome, and he was marked man, and there was 2 lads on him, and you know yourself, like, it was just, that's Jack Cannon, and it was all down on top of him. And then we moved him back. I think he looked to go back himself, actually. I think Brendan Gantley Brendan was gone that year, but he went back in the half back line, wing back, centre back. Geez, he was excellent. Like, so we knew when he was coming home from Australia, he wasn't going to be going in full forward. He was going to be going around the midfield, half back line. We could possibly see him centre back with Portumna in. Well, he won't probably be there the next day now, but there's the same age, both of them. They're similar. That's why I thought it might work with Sean Blaine, because it might have been going well, like, for Jack in the full forward. He was just getting a bit frustrated. But geez, the minute he went back, he was man of the match. You know what I mean? So it's probably working out the same for them.
Yeah, just in terms of Haskell, then, like, the worry would have been with Blaine going back and maybe Cahill going to midfield. And Cahill only scored 2 points, but they still had 8 different scorers, and they racked up 119. So it's good signs from a Haskell, really, isn't it? Because they would.
It is, big signs of development now. In fairness, they have good forwards there. Like, Mark Kelly is a fine forward. Noel Ward, he might be small in stature, but gee, again, he's a classy hurler, and his goal was excellent by all accounts. They were only 11 points to 8 up at half time, and his goal in the 32nd minute, that's what kicked things off for them from there. They kicked on, you know. Looking at Pearce's, the main difference, I spoke to Darren Kelly yesterday just to kind of get an overview on how those 2 games went in Ballinasloe on Saturday. He said the difference between the teams was Asker had the players, as you say, capable of putting the ball over the bar from play, and Pearce's, on the other hand, they were reliant on frees, you know, an awful lot. The majority of their scores did come from frees. They're just lacking. The age profile has gone up, you know, more than with a lot of teams like yourselves, Chunky, as well. You know, it comes a time where you need new blood coming in, and they haven't managed to get enough of it really over the last couple of years, and they're starting to struggle a bit now with the kind of their natural scoring forwards. They're coming towards the end as well, and as you say, with Cyril gone now, they're just lacking.
And even with Cyril, as I said, like, I'd seen him centre back, centre forward, centre field, full forward, you know, which isn't ideal either. You know, there's a reason they had him all over the place. He was trying to do a lot of stuff. They probably just need to blood a couple of players and drive on and get them in fairly quick.
Final game then, just on our review show, would be Muller 122, Nadim Leitrim 114. I suppose kind of a great result, really, isn't it, for Muller? They were a lot more comfortable than any of us probably expected.
Yeah. My 2 mates are involved in Muller there. I have Conor Durvan and Eugene McEntee, 2 quiet lads as well, might I add. Yeah, I know. I was delighted to see the results. I was talking to them. Started poorly by all accounts, Muller. Once they got into it, the experience probably told. I think there was a stage in the second half there where, was it? You might tell me, did they get 13 points to 1 or something? Or
they went from 11 points. They were 11-9 down, and then went on to outscore Killinema Leitrim
110
110 to a pint
pint.
for the next 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Like, to me, Leitrim Killadima have been middling the last couple of years. The great underage, they're coming through. They're probably in a little bit of transition with them lads. They're probably still a bit young. Mulla aren't. Mulla need to be winning these games, to be honest. And that's just it. They have a lot of senior lads there. You know, Johnny Raff, Cahill Durbin, Davy Glennon, Sean Hardiman. These lads, they're not young lads now anymore. Like, you know what I mean. So they have plenty of young lads, Ronnie Glennon, etc. So they be looking at trying to get up to Senior A and push on in the full championship, you know. And that was probably, as I say, it was a poor game by all accounts. But once Mulla got going, David Glennon and the rest of them got going, they seemed to be winning comfortably enough.
Just on Davy, I suppose it's probably scoring 5 points from play. There's probably that extra motivation from this year to push on now and really kind of, because Shane O'Neill and the boys have been saying that they'll be looking at club performances and that's why they'll be selecting there. So there's probably an opening there if he really puts in a good club campaign to kind of open the door back for Galway again.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure he's captain this year out there.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So, like, that was great straight away, even by the lads' management, you know. It probably gave Davy a lift to come back into the club, and the lads entrusted him with the captaincy to bring on a lot of the younger lads. And by all accounts, he's trained fierce hard out there. And like, Davy's a fine hurler. Like, you know, I've seen him hurling club, seen him hurling with Galway. So we've all seen him, you know. So he's a hard man to handle. You know, he's physically strong. He's able to get scores. One thing I always liked about him, he doesn't mind winning the dirty ball, which you need. But it's great to see him scoring 4 and 5 points from play. Like, but that's the way it should be. With the intercounty setup, you know, if Davy Glennon is flying it. Now, the thing I'll say about you're playing Kilnadeem and Leitrim, probably Mulla need to get, well, obviously he needs to play well every day, but they probably need to get out of the group and then start performing against the bigger teams as well, you know. But it's great. It's great for him and it's great for the rest of them. I heard his younger brother was actually quite good as well. Ronnie the last day.
Yeah, and just on Kilnadeem and Leitrim, then finally it's a bit of a worrying scoreline, isn't it? Really, like, unless things improve, they could be really facing a relegation battle. If things, what is it? They haven't won a group championship game in two years now, I think. Is it? Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
Since they went up Senior A, they didn't do anything in Senior A. Like, you know, again chatting to Darren about this game, Kilnadeem and Leitrim were the better side in the first half and missed a host of chances and should have been ahead at half time. And then started the second half brightly. They got the 2 points up when Jack Kenny scored in the 36th minute. And from there, for whatever reason, just the floodgates opened up at the other end. You know, no real sure sign for it. Just a lot of their main players that they looked at, it just didn't really happen for them, which can happen on a day too. You know, the likes of Darragh Donoghue back there, Stephen Roach. Brian Malloy went fairly alright by all accounts. As in fairness, he's a really consistent club hurler for them. You know, he's a quality forward, as we all know.
Yeah.
But in that group, you know, Mulla.
I wouldn't think there's any need for them to panic yet now either, though.
No.
They could still turn around and win their next 2 games.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, but they'll definitely need to improve on 114. It won't be good enough. And like, you know, by the sounds of it, they could have had Mulla put away in the first half as well. So, like, maybe they need to be a bit more ruthless up front.
Yeah.
Patrick, do you want to take us through the intermediates? Just a quick run up there.
Yeah, just a quick run through. We won't spend too much time because we've a lot of time spent already. 7 games over the weekend. Nothing really majorly surprising about any game. Kilbeakenty's draw with Meath were probably the biggest surprise of the weekend, you know, and that was a late smash and grab job that I'd say Aircourt still are take with themselves over. Kilbeakenty hit 2 late goals, one in the 6th, the second in the 6th minute of injury time to level that game 2-8 to 14 points.
I will say with Kilbeakenty though is the only thing. We actually played them and geez, they were mightily impressive when we played them. Brian Mackey's involved with them there. And geez, I haven't seen them as well set up in years. I thought they were outstanding when we actually came up against them now.
I saw them playing Carnmore actually last year, and They were 6 points down, I think, at half time, and they were playing. I think there might have been a man down or against the wind. And I actually came out of the game in Athenry and I said, lads, we're on about Kilbeaconty in relegation. They're not bad. They weren't bad. I said they had potential. So it didn't overly shock me when I saw the result. I said I knew well if them lads set up right, it'd be close enough.
Yeah.
Great
No,
result.
I would have hurled with an awful lot of those fellas underage with Michael Cusick and that, and they're fine hurlers, It's just the transition hasn't really, like, the age profile in that team is relatively young,
Yeah.
but the transition hasn't really happened for them there. But as you say, Brian Mahoney's involved with them this year, and if they get things organised and they have a right cut at it, they're essentially going into a knockout game of hurling now against Mike Cullen. If they win the game, they're through, and if they lose, they're gone. More than likely going to be may finish bottom. We don't know. It depends on how the other game goes.
They're probably a bit unlucky now in the group they landed in, to be honest, as well.
Yeah.
It was a great result against Airport, but the truth being told, Mike Cullen are going to be prepared for them now. I couldn't see them beating Mike Cullen. That's my own view, but
that's true.
Struggle. But if they were in any other group, the way they're going at the minute, they probably would because there's a lot of teams didn't perform at the weekend in that intermediate grade.
Yeah, we look back at Group 1, of course. Abenakmai relegated from Senior B last year. They beat Turloughmore by 8 points. Abenakmai, they've lost a lot of lads to immigration, that since last year. So a much weakened team. So, a good start for them, certainly. But we know where Turloughmore lie is in the pecking order and intermediate too. They're a side that are going to be down there for the foreseeable as well, So I'd say it's too early to kind of judge where exactly Abenakmai are at. If they had a full squad, you'd certainly say they're one of the fancy teams to go back up. But without the likes of Brian Flaherty's gone, a good host of other fellas, they're gone abroad. They'll top this group. I'm fairly sure of that. But after that, now if they come up against a Kilkenarn or a Meelick Aircourt, Mike Cullen, these teams, they could find it that bit tougher, Cylon got off to a good start. They beat Castlegar 17 points to 13, which is a great start for them. Great to get 2 points on the board. They're a team who, in fairness, they play. Their results often don't match how well they play in games. There's been a lot of games the last year or two that they probably should have won that they haven't won. So to win this first game for them is awfully important. They led 12 points to 6 at half time, having played into the breeze, and that's really kind of where they did most of the damage. Laid the foundations for that win. Castlegar, they've held on to their status well the last year or two. They've often looked like the team most likely to go down, but of course they beat Kilbeaconty last year to force Kilbeaconty to play the relegation final against Kilturloughmore.
Who went down?
Kilturloughmore, no one.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Don't mention the war.
I was actually glad no one went down. We like to keep these Galway up our side.
So that leaves Abenakmai top of that group, followed by Cylon, and then Kilturloughmore and Castlegar.
Just on Cylon, lads. Cylon are a very, very, very good side, and people that are like, say, senior teams now, etc., that wouldn't see a lot of what's going on in the intermediate grade. I saw a good lot of it last year, and Cylon actually drew with Kinbarra, who were up playing senior.
Yeah.
This year. They drew, I think it was 12 apiece down on Pearse Stadium last year. Should have won the game. They've got some serious hurlers, and the one thing I was impressed by is their forward unit, for the big men, big fit men, and well able to play ball. So I could see them coming strong, and they'll definitely cause a few upsets. They get out of that group as well. That's for certain.
Yeah, fairly sure about that myself too. Moving on to Group 2, David, your own lads, you're involved with Athenry. It was never going to be an easy start going up against Kilkenarn. In fairness, probably the last team you wanted to face your first day out. And put up a respectful enough showing, but in the end, class toed. And like Kilkenarn, they have the likes of Ian McGlynn is in there now, Sean Connaughton, Brian Hickey is back from London. He's been hurling over there the last couple of years. He's a serious hurler as well. Like, it's stronger is what they're getting,
Yeah, definitely. They were very, very impressive now, I must say. But I'm sort of laying the blame on the old water break anyway. We were well in it after the first 15 minutes.
Just on Athenry now, would they be missing many lads from the Junior A winning side from last year?
No, they actually wouldn't. They wouldn't have.
Okay.
It'd be more or less. Now we've
Pretty
had,
much the same squad.
Added a couple of additions, like say there would have been a few lads that were on the minor panel last year that would have stepped up, like say would have Mark Hardyman and Kieran Hardyman. I think they would have been involved with Galway minor panels. So we're a young team. We have a good bit of experience there. We have the two Donohues as well involved, like Shane David and Liam Howley be centre back with us. Like
it's just people looking at that result will automatically presume that Athenry second team. I would have seen a bit of them last year, like in the junior A as well, and I kind of tipped them to pull a couple of shots this year. I didn't realise you're involved now, but until this evening. But I wouldn't be taking them for granted. They'll Kilkenarn are like probably above average now at that level with the additions this year. They're probably favourites to win it as well. Like so.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, like the other. You look at the other two teams. Like, there's no reason that Athenry couldn't go out and overturn or at least give serious bother to both on Spidgeon and Cairnmore. There's certainly that they have every chance of beating either of those teams.
I give them a great chance,
in that game.
On Spidgeon, they're probably a bit like Ceylon. You'd see it in paper and people think, on Spiddle they play football, etc. And Spiddle are a very good hurling side as well. They're hard to break down. They play a running game. They're quite good.
Put up a hell of a score at the weekend. They put up 3-15 against Cairnmore. And we're again full value for that win. Cairnmore got a goal at the end. Conor Flaherty, again, he was their minor, one of the standout player probably for their minor team last year. They won the county title. He got a late goal, but on Spidgel, Cillian O'Huckey, he's been probably their star man for a number of years now. At this stage, fine forward. In fairness, he got 2 goals and had a hand in the third one as well. And those goals were the difference. Cairnmore always they were tipping over more points, but those goals always kept on Spidgel in front, and in the end it just proved too much for Cairnmore to reel back in, really.
And with O'Huckey as well, they always have goals in them, really, don't they? They just always have capable of chopping up 2 or 3 a game, really. And as Chunky said, they're a very good team, and they're not to be underestimated whatsoever.
With the game they play as well, they draw the man, they overlap, the running game. It's like the football up there, and it's a credit to them because I to be chatting 1 or 2 of them up there, and it's basically the same team playing the football and the hurling week in week out. Is pretty much. The pick of whatever 25, and there might be an overlap of maybe 10 lads. Like it's amazing that they're so strong at the hurling, But they are strong. Anyone that thinks they're not hasn't seen them play, because I've seen them play. They're a hard team to break down, and when they get a run on you, they're not easy to stop.
The thing is, they're probably favourites to come second in that group now. Kilkenny are going to top the group. There's no denying that. But they're probably favourites to come out of the group now, come out second, having beaten Cairnmore that first game. So now move on to Group 3 then, finally. We've already touched on Group 4 with Kilbeg and Team Gair Court. Turloughmore, last year's beaten semi-finalists, of course. Got after a good start. They beat down by 6 points. Now they lost. They're after losing a nice 2 lads that they would have expected and were hoped to have, we'll say. I know Ronan Badger was regraded. The likes of Jeremy Mullen, Brian Murphy, they all saw action at the weekend there for the seniors. So they're going to be losses down the line. They'll probably be fine in the group, but come knockout again now, that could come back to hurt them a bit. But sure, that's the nature of the beast. I'm sorry to say it, David, it might happen to you going down the line as well. That's what's always going to happen with these. But an impressive start for them. Played in Tuam Stadium, of course, of all places. In fairness, they invested in a new set of nets for behind the goals, which was badly needed because could hardly stop footballs. Them nets, the size of the holes in them.
And speaking of football, I think Damien Comer didn't start for Annadown, but he came on. Or he'd be a big loss now, not starting.
Imagine a cornerback in intermediate and seeing Damien Comer catch a ball out ahead of you and then turn and head for you.
We played Annadown last year now, and it wasn't a game we targeted with Rahul Newcastle, and he was playing full forward, and John Hanbury was full back, and he's a good player. He's a good player. Like if he was I had originally heard that he was asked into a Galway hurling squad a few years ago, and I was kind of half laughing, thinking that he was, football. But I tell you one thing, when I saw him that day, I was saying, if he gets another call, he mightn't be so bad in there.
Yeah. Oh, he's well able to hurl.
Sure.
Well able to hurl, yeah. And he has the striking was slightly slow, but like at that level, you're getting away with it. But that's coming from a lad that wouldn't be doing any hurling, like no more than name and brand.
Exactly,
If them lads were hurling, they'd be bang close to inter-county standard.
Just on Turlough there, just Killian Hurley and players like that. They're lads that have lit up the intermediate championship now the last 2 years. Like this, Killian Hurley's an absolutely fine hurler. I'd say he'd be starting for 80% of the senior teams out there. If
I'd say more, to be honest.
Do you know, he's like just that Turlough can keep a player like this in reserve is. People are complaining about that they don't have forwards. Like, geez, if there's 6 or 7 forwards better than this fella, they definitely have forwards. Like, there's no question. I
said it recently. We played Turloughmore last year. I think they played against the wind against Rahoon. They scored 2-11, and that's 2-11. What's that? 13 shots at the goal. They actually took 14 shots at the goal, and they scored 2-11 from play against the wind. Like, and I was here thinking, I'd seen them. I knew they were good, and I didn't take them at all for granted. But I didn't think they were going to be sharp as that. Like Turloughmore, it's amazing the pick to have, and they've some even though they're missing maybe there'd be a loss. Brian Murphy would be a big loss now to the intermediates because he kind of organised the whole lot for them last year as well. From the middle of the field, he was kind of sweeping. He was up front. He was taking frees, so he'd be definitely a big loss.
Yeah, and then finally, then you mentioned Rahoon Newcastle there, having been involved with them previously, Chunky. They were in bother for long periods against Climber, but brilliant second half comeback and ended up coming out of there with a draw.
Yeah. Look, I was chatting to a few lads from Climber and Rahoon since then. It's very similar to last year. We played Climber as well. Now, I think both teams had stronger sides out last year because Rahoon, they were missing definitely. John Hanbury doesn't seem to be gone back hurling. Eamon Brannigan, I don't know, is he injured or what's the story? He wasn't playing, and there was Willie Mackey was playing for them last year. He was one of our top performers last year. Big, strong fella in the forwards. Now, none of the three of them played. And Climber then, I'm not sure. Owen Fahy, I don't think was playing. Joey Starr, lads like that. So they're top players. Like, so the standard was probably down a bit, but same thing again. Climber went 6 ahead. I think there were six ahead definitely last year. I think there was 6 ahead again this time. And Rahoon came back and pegged it back. And by all accounts, there was a couple of dodgy refereeing decisions in that for both sides as well. But I'd say they'll take a draw each. I think both of them will still target getting out of the group. If they can get a few of them players back. But they probably to go on to the latter stages, I think they'll need to get a few of them players back.
For sure.
Perfect. We'll leave it there. So will we, lads, for another week. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to the Round 1 review show. We'll be back next week with previews ahead of the Round 2 games. Kevin, Patrick, thanks a million for joining us.
Lads.
Take it easy.
Cheers, lads.
Good evening.